To my YouTube channel, Natty the Coder. Today we're going to be talking about arrow functions in JavaScript. So far, we've talked about functions declarations, functions expressions, and arrow functions. That's going to be the new topic for now. Before diving into the lecture, please make sure you watch the previous lectures in JavaScript in order to follow along. Let's just dive into the lecture. Arrow functions. There's another way of declaring your functions. That is a very concise syntax for creating functions that is often better than function expressions. And it's called arrow functions. For example, we have a function that we call aid, and it has a function body like this. We are passing two parameters and it returns us a plus b. Wow, it's quite it looks different. It's quite concise. It's really small. If we have only one argument, then parentheses around the parameters can be omitted, making that even shorter. So yeah, we can also omit the parameters parentheses over there. If there are no arguments, parentheses are empty, but they must be present, and arrow functions can be used in the same way as function expressions. This is basically shorter form or shorter way to write function expression. So for example, let's say we have a function that is called, let's say we have, a function, we call it aid, and this function has a body and it expects two parameters. And then the way to call this function is we can just do, this is how we would do it with the function expression, and we would return a plus b. Okay, what the arrow functions adds to this function expression is, and to define it in the arrow function way, we can just do it like this. Let add equal function. We'll just comment it out just not to see the errors. We can say we will be omitting the function keyword here, so JavaScript would already know what we are doing, and we can do this and we can return a plus b. But if our function is one-liner and we are just returning a simple expression like this, then we can also get rid of this. We can say that return. So this already works for, it means that this function is expecting two parameters called a and b, and it will return the sum of these two numbers, and we can just specify it in front of the arrow itself, and we don't need to specify the curly braces actually. So this is very cool, and this is very short. You can see that this is how we write the function expression, and this is how we write the arrow functions, the arrow function, and we are also omitting the function keyword. We're also omitting the return statement if this is just a one-liner function. So yeah, this is so cool. This is really small, and we can just call it, for example, like this to 4. We're passing it, and we can just assign it to a variable, for example, results, and we can just console log the results or print the results on the console. We can just say results, and we can just go to the browser, refresh, and you can see the results. So how cool is this? What if we have just one parameter over here and not just two of them, and we have a function called, for example, we are just printing the values. For example, you have passed, for example, we can say passed a, okay, and we don't need the parentheses anymore because we're just passing one variable and we're just printing the value, and we don't need to call this. So you can we have to do this, and you can see the results, and we don't need to pass the second parameter. We just have to pass the first parameter since it's just expecting one parameter, and we can save it and see, yeah, you have passed 2. So yeah, this is how it works really. So this is a very concise and cleaner way of writing your functions and all that. What if we don't have any parameters at all? Then in that case we cannot do it like this because it will cause the error. We have to provide the pair of parentheses, and we just have to call this function, and we don't need this actually. So we'll just call this function, and we're not passing any parameters over here. So we can just call it a hello world or something like that, hello world. And we can also change the name over here to hello world, whatever we want, and save it. And this should work as expected. So these are basically arrow functions that just make the syntax very shorter and a more cleaner way we can write our functions. What if we have more than one line of code? Then we can of course do this. And for example, if the function from the function we want to return something, then we can also return, for example, the hello world or something like that. But yeah, this is how it really works. And you can also do this, so it also works for multi-line code. So yeah, arrow functions may appear unfamiliar and not very readable at first, but that quickly changes as the eyes get used to the structure. So once you get used to the arrow function syntax, it's very easy to use, and it's very short to use. So most of the time, people, if you go through some JavaScript course, the newer JavaScript course, you'll often find the arrow functions in there. So multi-line arrow functions. Sometimes we need a more complex function with multiple expression and statements. In that case, we can enclose the function body in curly braces that we just talked about. The major difference is that curly braces require a return within them to return a value, just like the regular function does. We will learn about it in depth and differences in later lectures as well. So there's some more core differences between a regular function and then this arrow functions. So we will learn about that in the upcoming lectures. But if you want to omit the curly braces, then you do need to write the return. You can just do console log like this, or you can just evaluate the function over here like this. For example, that if it is expecting A, B, and then you can just pass two values over here. So you don't need to specify the curly brace in this, and you can also omit the return statement. So this is how we define our work with arrow functions. This is the end of this lecture. A very short, talk about arrow functions, how it really works, and how it is different from the function expressions and also function declaration. So yeah, we'll talk about it in more details in the upcoming lectures. And I hope you have learned something new in this video. Please like and share the video. Subscribe to the channel, and then make sure to press the bell icon for future updates. And until then, I'll see you in the next lecture.